we're fucking with some gourds. I've got here a acorn gourd, and this is a butternut gourd, and we're going to start by clearing out all but one gourd, and this is our selected gourd. And we're going to first remove the sticker. Here's the PLU if you want to know how to look it up if you're a computer. If you're a person, just walk into the grocery store and look for the thing that looks like this. But you can just put that anywhere, and you want to take your very sharp knife and chop the thing real good. And at some point you might need to get a baton on it. So we're just going to work our way through this until we get all the way through to the bottom. Just like that. It's a real firm gourd that we're working with. I did not expect it to be this firm, but it is. So just work your way through it like that, and we've got that now, which is not what I expected to find inside of this thing. I gotta be honest, I've never opened one of these before. But we are going to scoop out the internal meat pieces with a spoon. So get yourself a spoon, and you're going to scoop out the meat. Vegans, don't worry, this is not animal meat. You didn't cause any suffering by getting a butternut gourd, aside from the suffering of the slave children that picked them. So just go ahead and scoop all that out. You don't really need this. You can throw it away. Some people like to roast the seeds and then eat just those because they think it's a tasty snack. And, some people are really disgusting like that. I don't know why, but it's just how they live their lives. I guess this is America. You can eat whatever you want. But, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me that you would eat seeds. It's basically like eating plant cum. And this is No Nut November, so we're not going to be messing around with that. Now you might say, oh, but that's a butternut squash. But it's a squash, it's not a nut. So do that to both of the squash halves until you're done. Alright, once you've got the meat out of both of these, we're going to chop them a little bit more. Just like that. And they're still very firm, but if you apply a little bit of elbow grease, you can get your way through them. So just chop it. That piece is gone. Oh, I'm not cooking that piece, so don't do it that hard. But you got to do it a lot harder than you would, say, an avocado or a banana or anything like that. But get your gourds. We're going to do both of these into small pieces. Okay, so we filled up a whole baking sheet with those two gourds. There's a lot more meat in there than you would think. It's not like a pumpkin where it's mostly hollow on the inside. It's a gourd, and it's just straight meat all the way through. This is how much waste we were able to get, and it filled up a whole baking sheet. So now we're going to grab a second baking sheet, and we're going to clean the Pillsbury stuff off of this, and we're going to chop open these gourds and put them on here. So I've got this now cleaned, or at least I've removed the Pillsbury croissants from it. But it's, I don't know, you can call it clean if you want. It's really just an idea, and it's a spook, so don't worry about it. But we're going to try and cut this thing, which is also way harder to cut than the last one. So what you want to do is you want to just, you want to go like this at it, and then bash it real hard until your pens fall over, and eventually you'll make it all the way through this thing. If you want to stop filming, this is going to take me a bit.
Sam,
Yeah.
the point.
The point?
Yeah.
The point of the blade?
Yeah.
What about it?
Just stab it through and then pivot.
Oh, you have a high IQ.
You're making this really hard for yourself.
I never even thought about using the point of the blade.
It's because you didn't study the way of the sword.
I never did study the way of the sword, to be honest with you. Are we still filming?
Yeah.
That's good. Fug, is it alright if I put that in the video?
Yeah, I don't care.
Alright. Oh, there we go. Hey, look at that! We were able to get that thing. Alright, pro tip. Use the pointy part of the blade to get what you want done. And we're going to scoop these bits out too. I'm not going to really differentiate between the two meats, or the two, like core pieces with the seeds in them, because I don't really plan to do anything with that. So I'm just going to scoop it all into this one bowl and then toss it pretty soon here. But we're going to get these chopped up and put on this baking sheet. You can I'm going to just impale this one, see what happens. It didn't work as well as I wanted it to. God damn it. Oh, hey, we made it through. Great. So after you do that, you just kind of pivot like so, and it makes it a lot easier to cut. This is knife pro tips from our friend Fug. Thanks, Fug. Alright, so we've got this heated up to 350 degrees now. I didn't show you that because you've seen me preheat the oven enough times. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these and we're just going to pop open the oven and slide them on in there. So get our first pack of gourds in there, and then get our acorn gourds in there, just like that. Close that up, and we're going to let them cook for about 10 minutes and see what happens. My watch beeped, which means that it's time for the experiment to come out of the oven, at least for a second, to see if it's ready for the next step. So we're just going to pull out one of these right now, and I'm going to kind of poke it, and this is still really firm, and I'm wanting this to be a lot softer. So I'm going to put these back in the oven, and we're going to let them cook for another 10 minutes. Why not? Let's give it a go. So now we're going to be going in here for a total of 20 minutes by the next time they come out, and we'll see you on the other side. These have been in here now for 20 minutes, and they're not quite where I want them to be, but honestly I think it's about as close as we're going to get. So poking these, they're still pretty firm, but they're also warm and starting to sizzle and burn on these ones over here, on the acorn squash. So I don't know if the solution to this is to leave them in longer or cook them into smaller pieces, or if this is how it's supposed to be, but this is how we're going to work with it. So we're going to get rid of that because we don't need it. And we're going to grab this, which is, you might remember from our failed hummus episode. This is our food processor, so I'll grab that. Grab the bucket to put onto it, and put the bucket onto it. Just like so. It's a very simple and straightforward process to do. Then, after you've got the bucket on there, I guess we need to probably remove these skins. So, figure out how to do that, and then put the squash in the thing. I'm gonna move this into the air real quick. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna move this over to here. And grab this, put it down there, like so. And then we're gonna just grab, I guess, one of these, and we're going to try to cut off the skin, like this. Yeah, this is gonna work. So we're gonna cut the skin off of all of these. So we've got that on 360 degrees on all of this, which is going to take a minute, but it'll work. You know, it'll take a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but we'll be able to get it done.
All right, we're live.
All right, so we looked it up on the Google machine, and we're actually supposed to bake these for an hour, not 20 minutes. So we're putting them back into the oven. It's a real simple process. You just do the same thing you did when you took them out, but in reverse. If you can't reverse your muscles, then you know you can't handle the heat. You should have stayed out of the kitchen. But we're gonna wait 40 more minutes now. That's backwards. There we go. Got it. 40. We've been an hour now, so we're pulling these bad boys right on out of here. Ooh, real hot on my hands. But they're looking a lot more crisp, and they're also steaming. They're steaming real hard here. I'm moving this around over here, and now we're gonna pull out the butternut squash. So we've got butternut squash, acorn squash, and they're softer, but they're still kind of firm. Did the internet say they were supposed to be soft?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, we're just gonna roll with it like we were going to before. We're gonna let these cool for a little bit because they're literally steaming hot. But once they're cooled, we're gonna take off all the skins. We're gonna circumcise them all with a knife, and we're gonna chop off all of the skin pieces. Basically, that's what we're doing on all of the squash. So all of this is gonna get its skin, just the tip of it, chopped off. And we're going to continue this process throughout all of this. So if you want to take that over, I've got a couple of helpers in the kitchen today, which is really nice to have. And we're going to move over here to the bread zone where we're making the bread dough. So get your mixing machine, and we're going to be following the banana bread recipe, except instead of the bananas, we're using the squash this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the margarine in here. We need 2/3 cup of it, but this also only calls for 1.5 cups of mashed potato, and we've got a shitload of squash. How much squash do you think that is in cups?
Metric or like?
What do you think? Pureed.
30 cups.
Holy shit. Okay. We don't have that kind of margarine. We've got this much margarine. I trust that that's probably pretty accurate, actually.
We should probably puree it first.
We should definitely puree it first. But what we could also do, keep it on the action. What we could also do, instead of pureeing it first, is just make the bread dough and then later add the puree, to flavor. So we could take the puree and we could add it in and pour out a muffin, and then add some more puree in and pour out another muffin, and add some more puree in and figure out which one we like best. And then if we had too much puree, we just have really strong squash muffins.
Yeah, alright.
Okay, let's do it that way. So we're going to mix up one batch of this dough mixture for starters, and for that we need 2/3 of a cup of margarine. You can look at this and see how much 1 cup is, and I'm just going to kind of eyeball 2/3 cups out of this, so grab a spoon of some kind. I need to get in front of you. Thank you, friend. Alright, you get your spoon of some variety, and you get your margarine into it, and then you get it into the bowl. Just like that. A little bit more. That's probably, what you think? That's like 2/3 a cup?
Yeah, sure.
Alright. I'm going to get this bit off the spoon because a little bit of extra margarine never hurt nobody. And then we're going to add in 1.5 cups of sugar. Don't tell him. He's on an anti-sugar diet right now. So just grab your sugar, grab your measuring cup, and pour. And since we're going for more of a actual squash flavor, we're actually going to underdo the sugar a little bit. So we're only adding half of a cup instead of 1.5 cups of sugar. This is a low-calorie bread mixture today. We're going to put in 2 eggs, so we got our eggs right here. And as I've said before, some professional cooks like to crack their eggs in a different container and then move them into the cooking receptacle, but that's gay, so we're just gonna open these bad boys up right here, right above the receptacle, and basically get good and don't get any eggshells in there, is the trick here. And we're just going to pop them open, like so, and then we're going to put this down, lock it in place, we're going to start mixing. And this is going to mix, and we're going to continue adding more ingredients, so we're not adding sour cream because that's dumb. We want to add in 2 3/4 cups of flour, so grab your flour right here, and you grab your measuring cup, and start pouring this, just like that. Oh, okay, 2 3/4 cups of flour, so we definitely need a lot more than that. We're probably still going to need even more than that, but that is, I'm going to call that 2 1/4 cups of flour so far. Now this is not creamed yet, and we need this to be creamed, so I'm going to crank this up, and it's still not creaming, and that's because I'm actually using the wrong attachment head. So what you want to do, you want to grab your correct attachment head, and you want to detach this one. And you can just put this on the margarine lid. That's what I usually do, because I'm going to end up using that later anyways. So we're just going to put that on there. Put this down. Where's my rubber spatula? I think it's in the dishwasher. Maybe. You see my rubber spatula over there? It's red. It's right here. I found it. It is really warm in here. It's just you? Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape this in here, and I'm going to kind of get some of the sugar on it too. And what we're trying to do basically is get this all in the center so that it's not stuck to the walls, and so that the machine can mix it properly, which is what it's doing now. And it's now doing a much better job of it now that we have the correct attachment head on this. So just crank up the speed a bit and mix it until it's creamed. And you'll know that it's creamed when you look at it, and you'll be like, hey look, it looks like cream. Which is going to be really soon here actually. So keep increasing the speed that we're beating our cream. We're going to beat the cream right out. You just keep letting it go. I got this machine to save myself time in the kitchen. And it's done a very good job, because that would have taken me probably twice as long to do if I had one of those like hand mixers, and a whole lot longer to do if I was using a fork and a bowl. So I'm very happy that I have this machine. It's definitely a must for any professional chefs, such as me. And we're going to add that flour in, and we're going to get the mixing back going on. And when you add flour or any sort of powdered anything into one of these machines, you want to start it off real low. Otherwise, you're going to get your powder just fucking exploding out of this thing. So keep it low until it starts to clump up like this is, and then we can crank it up a little bit. And while that's going, we're going to put this down on top of the margarine thing, and we're going to grab our baking soda and our baking powder and our salt, and we're going to find where we put the measuring spoons. I think are right over here. Oh, would this make your life easier? Would this thing make it any easier? No? Okay. We're not using a vegetable peeler to peel the fruit because it's fruit, not a vegetable. And what we want to do is we want to get a teaspoon of the baking soda and a teaspoon of the baking powder, which I originally, if you remember when we made the banana bread, I thought was kind of weird that we were doing it that way, but it turned out fine. So do a teaspoon of each when you're doing bread. So we've got here a teaspoon of baking powder, says it right there on the container. And then cap that off, get your baking soda, a teaspoon of that. Put it in there. Oh, and we also need a half teaspoon of salt, so find the one that's labeled 1/2 TSP, which is this one. Also known as 2.5 milliliters for all you Europeans out there. I only just realized that these have been translating measurements for me this whole time, and it's actually kind of frustrating because I like to leave the Europeans in the dark. But we can't do that when we're using these measuring spoons, so maybe I'll have to get new measuring spoons. But you add those additional powders in there, and then you just turn the thing back on, let it start to mix a little bit until it starts to clump up, and then at that point you can speed it up real good and let it continue to mix. And you can hit it. We're not completely ready to have everything pureed yet, but we can already puree some of the, what's this one, acorn squash?
Yes.
Yes, some of the acorn squash. So we're just going to start dunking this in here like a donut. And what are you looking at me like that?
Just looking, bro.
Okay, bro. We're just going to put some of this in here, and then we're going to make sure it's kind of flat-ish, mush it down a little bit, close the lid, push down on the lid, snap the thing, and then turn it on low first. And then turn it on high. And let it go for a couple minutes. It'll be a little bit. You can hit it. Probably better, easier for editing. We just pop some more of that in there.
Alright, we are live.
Okay. To get this thing off, you just pull up. You don't have to spin it or anything. And what we're gonna do now that this is nicely pureed, look at that. That's just beautiful. We're going to pour some of this into here. Now, how much cups of banana did it call for? 1.5 cups of banana. So that's not working. We need our spatula. And there's a little bit of butter and shit on this, but it all ends up in the same place anyways. So we're going to get 1.5 cups of this squash puree into this thing. And to do that, we're just basically using a spatula like a spoon. And you might say, hey, that's not the task that was designed for. But if you're saying that, you've clearly never seen this show before. If you're using a tool for only for the task that it was designed for, you're wasting that tool. But that is, what do you think? Is that a cup and a half? No, that's a cup. So we still need some more of that. We're gonna make a lot of bread, man. We've got so much squash. All right, keep adding. I'm thinking a little bit more than that. What do you think?
Yeah, just a tad more.
That
Make it
much?
extra squashy. Yeah, that should be good.
Alright, so now we're going to lift this and try and get this off of it like that so that we're not going to drip that on the counter when we, in just a moment, what we're going to do, we're going to remove the bowl, make this easier on ourselves, work smarter, not harder, and we're just going to do the same scooping action, pull this out of here, and into the bowl. This is really going to help it be less thick, and it's also going to add a nice squashy flavor to our bread. So keep adding, keep scooping it in. And at this point, we're going to want to start preheating our oven to 350 right as soon as we've got this stuff in here and turning the mixer back on. But that's why we have a mixer, so we can multitask. We're just going to pop that back in there, pop this down, lock it, and turn it on. And then we come over to the oven and say bake 350, start, and then we wait for that to start beeping and this to be done mixing. So I'm going to crank up the speed a little bit, and we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep doing it. So we're doubling this batch to save time and energy because these guys have to go home. It's 8 and they're leaving at 10. 10. All right. So we only have 2 hours left. We still have a lot of cooking to do. So we're going to add a bunch. Oh boy, a bunch more squash. And again, this is the acorn squash that we're working with now, and we're just going to be putting it straight in there. So, like that. And I'm just going to rest this on here. How many cups do you think this is? The first one we did was a cup and a half.
That's a good question. We can always put it in the measuring cup.
We could. We could do that.
We could do that.
I guess we should do that. All right. We do want this to turn out good.
Yeah.
It's a really nice flavor, I'm thinking. Let's put this in here. I hope that we get at least one batch out of the oven before you guys have to leave.
Hopefully.
Otherwise, we're just going to have to come visit you guys and deliver you some bread.
Bread delivery.
Yes. Or you can come over on Friday when I make soy bun.
Yes.
Alright, so what we've got here is, I'm going to call that 2 cups.
Yeah.
2 cups of squash that we're adding into the bowl. Take your bowl off. Make sure that you're not dripping onto your counter. And then add your squash into the bowl. Which might be a little bit difficult because there's so much of it and it's kind of sticky. But it's going to be okay. Just stick through it. And what? And we'll get there before you know it. So add that, and then add all the rest of the ingredients proportionally, which is going to be difficult. Because how do you proportionally add an egg? What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that instead of being 2 cups was 1.5 cups, and we're just going to double everything else that we did, and it's just going to be extra squashy.
All right.
You guys down with that?
Sure.
All right, good. I'm stealing away your ability to clean your workspace. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
If we're okay with putting the other squash into this that we already have.
Yeah. It'll be fine.
Okay. Otherwise, we'll have to rinse it, and that's just a waste of time.
Yep. And water.
And water. We need to save the precious water because the water wars are coming soon, and that's not a meme. That's real.
Just like pigs, the waters are getting scared.
And let's put that there. This is really tasty. I like it a lot. And we're gonna start popping these bad boys in here to help clear up. Do you want me to call? What do you want me to call you on camera?
It doesn't matter.
To clear up Conrad's workspace and just get everything in there as best we can. So get that in there, and then grab your lid that you had put over here. If you know, if you're following along exactly at home with where I put everything to, and then hit the high button and let it go. Then we don't need to film this part. We're just gonna add shit.
All right, we're live.
Okay, so this is pretty well mixed now. I'm gonna turn this off so that I can hear myself. This is pretty well mixed now, and it doesn't really taste like squash, but neither did the banana bread dough before I cooked that. So it's all gonna be A-okay in the end, I'm sure. It'll be very nice and tasty squash bread. This is the acorn squash bread, not the butternut squash bread so far. But what we're gonna do, actually we need this. We're gonna unlock this from here, and we're just gonna pour a bunch into this bread pan. You might notice we're not greasing this bread pan. That's because our cameraman Ian is allergic to the coconut spray that we used to grease the bread pan before. And I don't really feel like putting in the effort to margarine grease it. So maybe the bread will stick slightly to this pan, but there's only one real way to find out. And that's to just do it. Alright, so that's looking good to me. So put that aside. I'm gonna grab up some muffin tin. for the additional mixing action. And we're going to scrape this off the sides using our red rubber spatula. It has to be red and it has to be rubber, otherwise this recipe won't work for you, and you might as well not even try. But we're just gonna scoop some of that into there. I get the feeling this might be easier if I use the spatula as a spoon again. So I'm gonna try that. Scoop some of that up. Oh yeah, this is a lot easier. Alright, so we filled up a bread pan and 1 muffin tin of dough. And we're gonna pop these into the oven for an hour and 15 minutes. Holy shit, we gotta get these in there now. Alright, let's get this open. Just like that. Get this other one in there. The muffins don't need to be in there for an hour and 15 minutes. They need to be in there for an hour, maybe 45 minutes. Maybe we're going to do 50 minutes for the muffins. 50 minutes. So setting that alarm right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just like that. So we're hitting that. And then when it beeps, we'll pull those out. So these guys will get to take home some of the acorn squash bread, but they won't be able to take home any of the butternut squash bread because we literally won't have enough time to bake it. Damn. Sorry, guys. But we're going to continue pureeing this. Thank you again to Fug for chopping it all off. Thank you. He's silent over there. He's not acknowledging us because he doesn't like us anymore. But just keep adding this stuff into here. Keep pureeing it. Okay, so we're rolling. Now what we did was we did basically the same exact thing for the other kind of squash, except we decided that it would taste like shit if we just put the squash in there. So what we did was we quadrupled the amount of salt in the recipe, and we also added a fuckload of chopped up walnuts. And what that's going to do is it's just going to make it taste good. We also added very little sugar. When we doubled the quantities of the first batch, we did not add any additional sugar. So across all of this bread that we're making, there's maybe 2 cups of sugar tops, which is way less than the recipe calls for. So it's going to be very healthy, tasty bread, and hopefully it's tasty with no sugar in it. You never know. But we're going to. You can see the lumps of the what was it? Walnuts or walnuts? There's no such thing as an walnut. That'd be dope though. Imagine a nut that just tastes like every nut combined. Like you could take all the nuts and you could puree them. And you could press them into the form of the walnut, which would... I'm not sure what an walnut would look like. What do you guys think?
It'd just be a solid black circle.
A solid black circle for an walnut? Mm-hmm. Alright, maybe we'll do that someday. We'll make an walnut. Because I've got this thing. And this thing, I bet, if I just tossed a fuckload of nuts in there and hit it on high for 20 minutes, we'd have nut puree. And then we could use some water, I guess, to form that nut puree into the walnut with some food coloring, some black dye.
Into a cube.
No, I said sphere.
Oh, is it a sphere? Yeah, so we make a sphere.
The walnut is a black sphere.
That weighs as much as the sun. The walnut.
It's now filled up. We're going to pop it in there for 50 minutes. The other shit's still cooking. It's got 23 minutes left on the clock. Can you please start a 50-minute timer on your telephone?
I can't find my clock app.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do it on mine.
Oh, I got it.
Can we hit the...
I got it.
Alright, we're live.
Alright, so what you want to do is after you get your beeps going on, you want to take out your muffins. Ooh, it's very hot in there. So I'm going to slide this bit out a bit. Ooh, those muffins are done. Look at those. What do you guys think? Those look done to you?
They look done.
Alright, I'm going to take those bad boys out. We're going to leave that in there for another... how long are we supposed to put stuff in here for?
1 hour and 15.
1 hour and 15. We just did 50 on these, so what's an hour?
25 minutes.
Thanks. 25 minutes more for the bread, and then a few more minutes on the other batch of muffins that we put in there. But we're going to... Ooh, these just release naturally. We don't have to do any sort of spray on these, but we do have to let them cool a little bit because they're so freaking hot on my fingers. And they'll continue to cook a little bit even though they're out of the oven because they have all the heat inside of them, and that'll keep cooking them. Which is A-okay, that's fine, there's no problems with that. We're going to wait maybe 10 minutes. Do you think that's too long?
10 minutes would be fine.
All right, we're gonna wait 10 minutes on these, and then we'll be back to taste test them.
We are live.
All right, so these are now cool enough to touch without feeling like I want to die. So we're going to cut one of these open using this very effective knife, and take a look inside. That looks pretty well cooked to me. What do you think?
Yeah, looks good to me.
All right. I'm gonna continue chopping this in half. You get one? Here,
Yes, bro.
eat this, bro.
I don't taste squash.
You don't taste squash?
No.
Hang on. I'll chop this in half.
I can't even smell it.
Was I correct?
Here.
Just tastes like a muffin.
I don't taste any squash in this. It's just a muffin.
Yeah.
And it's not even fully cooked. It's still kind of raw at the bottom.
Yeah.
It was epic.
This isn't epic. What the hell? We just made regular muffins. Where did all the squash go?
There's a lot of it.
There was a bunch
I
of
mean-
squash in there.
They're good.
They're good muffins, but they don't taste like squash. What the hell do we do with this?
That's life. When life gives you squash.
I guess we should put these back in there and let them finish cooking.
Yeah.
How long do you think? 10 minutes?
10 or 15, yeah.
Alright. Oh, that's still going. Oh, we're taking. It's hot. It's really fucking hot all the time. Every time I do this, I reach my hand in there and it's like, oh no, my hand is really hot. I wonder how that happened. So we're taking this shit out, and then we're gonna leave the bottom muffins in for another. What did we say? 10 minutes. Another 10 minutes on the bottom muffins, and we still have to pour out all of this left, but we're gonna do that once we remove these bad boys from their pans, including this. This is looking cool. Look at that. It's got like a cracked, kind of a volcano-looking top there, which is pretty dope if you ask me. But they don't fucking taste like squash. They just taste like tasty bread muffins. There's no squash flavoring. All right, the guys left, and we're done with these. There's still some more muffins from the butternut squash in here. But we came to this interesting revelation that the muffins don't taste anything like squash. The ones with walnuts in them taste like walnuts. But the squash bread doesn't taste anything like squash at all. Neither of the squashes you can taste, not even a little bit. Which kind of sucks, because it would be nice if you could taste the squash, since we spent so much time and energy putting the squash into here. Pureeing it, cooking it. Folks spent an eternity chopping it. Shout out. But, I mean, they're good muffins. They're very tasty. I'm going to be very happy eating them. But they don't taste like squash. So, if you're making the muffins, cook them if you're making the muffins, cook them for an hour. If you're making the bread, I'd say do hour and a half. It says hour 15 on the recipe, but then it comes out a little bit raw on the bottom. So do an hour and a half on the bread, hour on the muffins. Thanks for watching this episode of Cooking with Zaphod. Don't forget to share on worldstarhiphop.com. And now you know that when you cook squash, it deletes all of the flavor.